Thiaoouba Prophecy. Chapter 5. Learning to live on another planet. She placed one hand under it and raised it above her head. Still with one hand, she set it down again, apparently with no effort. Next, she took the egg in both hands and pushed and pulled with all her might till the veins swelled in her neck. Still the egg didn't move a tenth of a millimeter. "It is welded to the floor," I suggested. "No, Michel, it is the center and cannot move. It is the nucleus I spoke of earlier. We have created a field around it, so strong that the wind and the rain can't penetrate this field. As for the sun's rays, we can regulate the extent to which they penetrate. The birds too, which come to rest above, are not heavy enough to pass through the field and, if by chance a heavier bird does land, he will start to sink. This produces such a frightening sensation for the bird that he will fly away immediately without having come to any harm." "It's so ingenious," I said, "but what is the significance of the light at the entrance? Couldn't we pass through the walls anywhere we chose?" "Indeed, we could. It's just that from the outside, it's not possible to see the interior, and so you can't know that you won't hit a piece of furniture on the other side. The best place to enter is always indicated by an external light. Come, let me show you around." I followed her and discovered, behind a richly decorated partition, a truly magnificent setting. There was a miniature swimming pool that seemed to be of green porphyry and, nearby, a matching basin over which a porphyry swan was bending, its beak open. The effect was beautiful. Tao held her hand under the swan's beak and immediately the water began to flow over her hand and into the basin. She withdrew it and the flow ceased. She indicated that I should try. The basin was about 150 centimeters above the floor, so that I had to lift my arm quite high, but I managed, and the water spurted out again. "How clever!" I explained. "Do you have water which is drinkable on this island, or have you had to sink bores?" Again Tao's face lit with her smile of amusement. It was quite familiar to me, appearing each time I said something that, to her, seemed quaint. "No, Michel, we don't procure our water as you do on Earth. Under this magnificent stone bird is an apparatus which draws air from outside and transforms it into drinking water as required." "That's wonderful. We are merely exploiting a natural law. And what if you want hot water?" "Electrovibratory force. For warm water, you put your foot here, and for boiling water, you put it there. Cells positioned on the side control the functioning of the apparatus, but these are only material details and of no great significance. This here," said Tao, following the direction of my gaze, "is the relaxation area. You can stretch out there." She pointed to a thick mat that was on the floor, a little further down towards the base of the egg. I lay down and immediately felt as though I were floating at ground level. Although she continued to speak, I could no longer hear Tao's voice. She had disappeared behind a misty curtain, so that I had the impression of being enveloped in a thick fog of cotton wool. At the same time, musical vibrations could be heard, and the total effect was marvelously relaxing. I stood up again and after several seconds, Tao's voice was audible again, growing louder as the fog lifted and disappeared completely. "What do you think of that, Michel? It really is the height of comfort," I replied enthusiastically. "But there is one thing I haven't yet seen, and that is the kitchen, and you know how important the kitchen is to the French." "This way," she said, smiling again and taking several steps in another direction. "Do you see this transparent drawer? Inside you have various compartments. From left to right, fish, shellfish, eggs, cheese, dairy products, vegetables, and fruits, and here in the last, we have what you call manna, which is our bread. Either you are teasing me, or you are making fun of me. All I see in your drawer is red, green, blue, brown, and blends of these colors. What you see are concentrates of the various foods, fish, vegetables, etc., of the best quality prepared by excellent cooks using various special methods. When you taste it, you will find all this food excellent and very nourishing." Tao then uttered several words in her own language and, in a few moments, I had before me on a tray selected items of food arranged in a manner pleasing to the eye. When I tasted it, my palate was agreeably surprised. It was indeed excellent, although very different from anything I had ever eaten before in my life. The manna I had already tasted in the spaceship. I ate some of it again and found it a good accompaniment to the dishes presented. You tell me that, on Earth, this bread is known as manna. How is it that it exists on Earth at all? It is a product we always carry on our intergalactic spacecraft. It is very practical, being easily compressed and highly nourishing. In fact, it's a complete food. It comes from wheat and oats, and you could live on it alone for months. Just then, our attention was drawn by the approach of some people, flying at ground level beneath the branches of the trees. They sat down at the entrance to the egg, unfastened their terras, and placed them on a block of marble, no doubt there for the purpose. One after the other, they entered, and I recognized with pleasure Biastra and Latoli and the rest of the crew from the spacecraft. They had changed from their space uniforms into long Arabian-style robes of shimmering colors. Later, I was to understand why the color of each robe was so flattering to the individual who wore it. For the moment, it was difficult to believe these were the same people I had known and spoken with on the spacecraft. They were so completely transformed. Latoli approached me, a radiant smile lighting up her face. Placing her hand on my shoulder, she said, telepathically, "You seem somewhat stunned, my dear. Are our habitations not to your liking?" She read my affirmative and admiring response and was delighted by it. Turning back to the others, she relayed my response, and comments flew thick and fast, everyone talking at once. They had all sat down, looking much more at home in their seats than I felt in mine. I felt as odd as a duckling among chickens in that my size corresponded with nothing that had been built on their scale. Tao went to the kitchen and filled a tray with things to eat. Then, at a word from her, all hands were held out in the direction of the tray, which rose slowly in the air. It moved around the room, stopping before each guest, without her having to touch it. Finally, it stopped in front of me and, with great caution, lest it fall, which vastly amused everyone, I took a glass of hydromel. The tray departed of its own accord, returning to its place of origin, and all hands were lowered. How is that done? I asked Tao. My question was understood telepathically by everyone, and there was a general burst of laughter. By what you would call levitation, Michel. We can, as readily, lift ourselves in the air, but that serves no great purpose other than our own amusement. Having said that, Tao, who was sitting cross-legged, began to rise above her seat and floated about the room, finally coming to rest in mid-air. I stared at her, but soon realized I was the only one fascinated by her accomplishment. Indeed, I must have looked idiotic, for all eyes were fixed on me. Evidently, Tao's behavior was perfectly normal to my friends, but they were more interested in the astonished expression on my face. Tao descended slowly onto her seat. That demonstrates one of the many sciences you have lost on Earth, Michel, apart from a few individuals who are still capable of doing it. There was a time when it was practiced by many, along with many other skills. We passed the time pleasantly that afternoon, my new friends and I, communicating telepathically in a light-hearted way, until the sun was low in the sky. Then Tao explained, Michel, this Doko, as we call our habitations on this planet, will be your home during your brief stay on Thayouba. We'll be leaving you now, for the night, to let you sleep. If you wish to bathe, you know how to arrange it and you can sleep on the relaxation bed. But try to be organized within the next half hour, as there is no lighting in this habitation. We are able to see as well by night as by day, and have no need of it. Is this building secure? Am I safe here? I asked worriedly. Again, Tao smiled. On this planet, you could sleep on the ground in the middle of town and you would be safer than in a building with armed guards, dogs, and alarms on Earth. Here, we have only very evolved beings, and certainly, none resembling the criminals you have on Earth. In our eyes, they must be likened to the worst of savage beasts. On that note, good night. Tao about turned and passed through the wall of the Doko to rejoin her friends. They must have brought a Lydiolac for her, because she flew off with the group. I prepared then, to spend my first night on Thayouba.